Hey y'all, today we're making Crunchwrap Casserole.
Hey, I wish you could see yourself just sitting there on my chair. I'm staring at you, you don't even notice. Should've told you straight away, you don't have to be afraid anymore. I know you haven't noticed. You know that
Alrighty y'all, so the first thing we're gonna need to do is go ahead and get all our little vegetables prepped. So I like to get all this done ahead of time so that when I'm ready to use them, I don't have to stop and do everything. So get everything ready ahead of time. And then also when you get ready to eat, everything's ready. It's all, you just got to pull it out of the refrigerator and it's ready to go. So go ahead and preheat your oven to 375. And if y'all have never had a Taco Bell Crunch Wrap, well, you're just really missing out. You're just really missing out. But it's Taco Bell, y'all. We all know what happens when we go to Taco Bell. So I wanted to make this at home. Now I have another video where I make the actual crunch wrap, and I'll link that video below for y'all if anybody wants to just make an individual crunch wrap. But if you're feeding a lot of people, this is the way to go. You know, you can't go wrong with a casserole. So I chopped up my tomato. Now the green onion and the lettuce I'm about to chop, those are for garnish. That's just something I wanted extra to put on top of mine. So it's completely optional. You don't have to use that if you don't want to, okay? So, like I said, I just want to get everything chopped up, and I'm chopping everything up pretty small. And then, of course, y'all know I'm going to wash my lettuce because, you know, bugs. We don't want no bugs. So, I got that little salad spinner. Y'all, that thing is the best. I use that when I have fruit, you know, that I need to kind of dry off, lettuce, any kind of thing like that. If y'all don't have one, you need to get you one. They're the best thing ever. I'll link mine below if y'all are interested. It's not real fancy, but, you know, it's not real expensive either, so that's always good. So go ahead and just get your lettuce all good and washed up. And then this thing, when it spins, it dries it, because, you know, lettuce is pretty much just water anyway. But this thing spins all that water right on out so you don't have soggy lettuce. Y'all, who knew? These inventions, you know, how did our parents ever survive with the things that they had to use? So anyway, we're going to go ahead, I can't talk. We're going to go ahead now and get us the onion diced up. Now this one is for, the stuff on the plate is for, you know, mostly for the top. We are going to use the tomatoes in it, but now my onion, the one I'm chopping now, that is going to mix in with our ground beef. If you don't like onion, you don't have to put this in your ground beef. I like onion, y'all know that, so I'm going to put some in mine. Now, we're not going to talk about my pan that looks like it's dirty. I promise it's not. It's clean, but all my pans are crusty. Y'all know this already if you've been watching for any length of time. I'm just waiting for some fancy pan company to come along and sponsor me so I can get some fancy new pans. So anyway, y'all, on a serious note, put a little bit of olive oil in your pan or whatever kind of oil you got. Put about a tablespoon or so in there, and then we're going to just throw our chopped onion over in there, and then we're going to add our ground beef. Now, y'all know I like to buy the big packs and put them in Ziploc bags. This is about, if I had to guess, and I am, maybe 1.5 pounds, 1.25 pounds, pound and 3, I don't know, something like that. But you can use 1 pound. You can use 2 pounds. You can use however much you want to use. If you want a whole lot more meat, use 2 pounds of meat. If you want a thinner layer of meat, just use, you know, 1 pound. 1 pound is what it calls for. I used what I had. So the recipe, y'all, just so you know, I found this. There's a girl that I follow, and she does a lot of Weight Watcher recipes, but this is clearly not a Weight Watcher recipe. But it looked so good to me, and I'll link her channel down below too. She's kind of a lifestyle channel. But anyway, I will link it down below for y'all if you're interested, because I always like to give credit where I find stuff. So once you get your ground beef all browned up and your onions are nice and soft, drain all the grease off of it, and then we're going to add some taco seasoning. Now, y'all know I don't measure when I have these big containers, but if you use the packets, just use a packet if you got 1 pound of ground beef. If you got 2 pounds of ground beef, add an extra packet in there. Or if you like a lot of extra taco seasoning, add however much you want. Then you're just going to add a little bit of water. I think the package says 2/3 of a cup. I don't ever measure that either. I just throw a little bit in there. But I just put some in there, and I actually added a little bit more taco seasoning to this too. But just put it over in there and let that cook down till the water's cooked out of it and all your taco seasoning. You know, your meat's all good and flavored up. Okay, now you're going to need a 9x13 pan, and you're going to need to grease that. You're going to need some of these really big flour tortillas. You can use whatever brand, whatever kind. You can use the low carb. I actually tried to find those, but I couldn't find any, so I just got the regular. So you're going to want to like form these in the bottom of your pan. You're kind of forming a little bed. A little bed or something. A little something. You're a little bowl. A bowl. Is that what I'm trying to come up with? We're going to seal this up. Okay, we're going to seal it up. So make sure that you've got it, you know, overlapped on the sides of your pan so that you can fold it over. But you want to make sure that the bottom, everything is overlapped so nothing falls out, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. So then you're going to take some shredded cheese, whatever kind you have will work just fine. I got this huge bag at Sam's just so I could have some on hand and make my life a little easier, because we use a lot of shredded cheese these days. And so, or in my recipes I have been. So what you're going to need, okay, like a regular size bag, you know, that you just get at Walmart or whatever, one of those. So what is that, about 1.5 cups or so? But put ever how much you want on there. You're just going to cover those tortillas in shredded cheese. Then the next layer is going to be our tomatoes. And again, y'all, if you don't like tomatoes or you're allergic to tomatoes or whatever the case may be, you don't have to put tomato in here. And if you don't have fresh tomato, you could actually probably drain some diced canned tomatoes really good and use those in here. But again, however much you want, put that in there. Then you're going to need some sour cream. Now I had light sour cream because that's what I had. We're going to take about 1/2 cup of this. Now, I was thinking to myself, if you, and actually I'm saying I thought it to myself, but she might have did this in her video, I can't remember. But you put about 1/2 cup of sour cream in your bowl. Then I took a little bit of water and I added it to my sour cream, because we got to get this sour cream somehow to spread over the top of this tomatoes and cheese. And you know that's not going to work well if you got something real thick like sour cream. You could also use Greek yogurt for this, y'all, if you wanted to. You know, if you're trying to be a little more health conscious or whatever the case is, you could use that if you wanted to. So I just added probably in total about 3 tablespoons of water to mine. And I didn't want it super thin because I didn't want my tortillas to be wet underneath, but I wanted it thin enough that I could kind of, you know, drizzle it over the top of my cheese and tomatoes just to make my life a little easier. Again, it's all about making your life a little easier, y'all. Why make cooking complicated? I mean, we have some complicated recipes because they just have to be that way. But when you're doing something like this, the whole point is to make something quick and easy, right? So go ahead and just drizzle your sour cream right over the top. And you could probably use milk too, y'all, if you didn't want to use water to mix that with. But y'all know me and lactose, so I didn't want to add any extra milk to anything. So go ahead and just drizzle it over, again, however much you want. You can use a whole solid layer of it if you want. I just kind of thought it would be good to just kind of drizzle it on there. Okay, now we're going to need some of these tostadas. If you cannot find tostadas, or you don't want to go to the store and get tostadas or whatever the case is, you can use a thick corn chip. That would be just fine. We just want to put something in here that's going to give it a little crunch, because that's the whole point of a crunch wrap, right? And y'all, do not ask me why I didn't turn these darn broken ones around to where the flat side was up against the pan. I have no idea. My brain was not working this night, apparently. So I didn't. So what I did was I just took one and I broke it up and I just filled in the gaps. It would have been easier if I'd have just turned it around, but I didn't. So we make it work, right? So just fill in your little gaps with little pieces of tortilla. It's not going to hurt you to have any extra. And then on top of your tostadas, we're going to add some of this, I think it's, what is it, chili con queso? I don't know. It's like the chili cheese dip. You know what I'm saying? Let you get at the Walmart. I showed y'all. But anyway, I ended up using maybe a half of this jar, maybe. Just use however much you need to get a layer of this on here, okay? It's not an exact anything. Just get you a jar and you'll have plenty. And just use, like I said, as thick of a layer as you want it to be, that's what you put on here. And just spread it out the best you can. You see my poor little pieces of chips. I had to kind of finagle them around, but that's okay. We make it work, right? We make it work. Now, I will say, when you bake this, the tostadas kind of soak up all this stuff, so they're not super crunchy. So if you want a little extra crunch, add an extra layer of those tostadas. I would maybe add it between the cheese and the meat. If you want to, totally optional. It was fantastic without it, but I'm just saying, if you wanted a little extra crunch, you could add an extra layer. All right, so now we're just adding our meat right on top of our cheese. And we're going to add, like I said, this is the layer, you know, your meat layer clearly. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? But that's why I was saying if you wanted to use more meat, you could make this layer a little thicker if you wanted to. But you can see that this, you know, little over a pound, pound and a half that I had was plenty to spread out. You just want to get a good layer of your meat because you don't want to have, you know, with all the stuff you're layering on here, you don't want to cut a piece that doesn't have something in it. You want to make sure that every piece you cut has a little of everything that you layered into your casserole, right? Like with any good casserole. Okay, so then I decided I would add a tiny bit more shredded cheese because number one, you can't have too much cheese. And number two, I was thinking to myself, as this baked, it would kind of, as the cheese melted, it would kind of seal the tortillas down to the meat a little bit better. Okay, so now you're going to take a fifth flour tortilla. So you pretty much need 5 of the flour tortillas and 5 tostadas if that's what you're using. That's, you know, how much you need to, you know, get the amount that you know, to be able to do this. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. I can't talk today. But anyway, then you're just going to fold everything over, make sure everything is good and sealed up, and then just spray it with a little bit of cooking spray so it'll be nice and crispy. So into the oven, 375 for about 20 to 30 minutes. Just watch it in whatever level of crispy you want. That's when you pull it out, okay? This is how, y'all, I can't. I'm tasting it right now. So you can see it's nice. I was trying to show you it's nice and crispy. Those tortillas were. And the bottom is nice and crispy too because we sprayed the top and the bottom. Y'all, I cannot. Woo, oh my gosh, this thing is so good. Okay, so you're going to let it sit for about 10-15 minutes to let it just kind of set up. Okay, let it just calm down on itself. Let the cheese quit bubbling so much. Then you're going to remove it from your pan. And if you see, my pan came out clean. Look at that. A little bit of cheese on the edges, but that's it. So this is not a messy dinner at all, which it seems like it would be with all the cheese and, you know, stuff like that, but it's not at all. So then you're just going to cut it into however big a square you want it to be. I cut this into 6 pieces. And my son and his other half were here. And let me tell you, the entire pan was gone. Whole pan. It was the whole thing. Then he asked, when you going to make this again? So I'll be making it again soon, y'all. This is definitely going into the rotation because it was fantastic. And it was a fan favorite, y'all. But you just, like I said, you just cut it into little squares, you know, however big you need, however many people you're feeding. And look at that, y'all. Oh my gosh. Ooey, gooey, cheesy, delicious. It is so good, y'all. I can't rave enough about it. It is so stinking good. And then I just put a little lettuce, a little bit more tomato, and those green onions right on top of mine. So when I took a bite, I would have a little bite of all that too. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all got to try this. You got to try it. All right. That's all I got for y'all today, y'all. I will catch y'all on the next one.
Hey, I wish you could see yourself just sitting there.